When I decided to chronicle the history of gay short films, I researched for several months and watched around 300 of them. And yet it was inevitable that I would miss a few titles, especially non-Western ones. Recently I stumbled upon a short film that contradicts the whole timeline I had painstakingly worked out so far. A small home movie from South Africa that quite frankly blew my mind with its content and its age. Chances are, if you have heard of Ernest Thorp, born 1911 in South Africa's Queenstown, now Komani, and you probably haven't, you might be really into orchids. Spending most of his life in Durban, a big coastal city with a population of around 500,000 by mid-century, he worked as the curator for the Durban Botanic Gardens for 25 years and became one of the world's foremost orchid experts. But to a select few, he was also known as one of the social leaders of Durban's surprisingly vibrant gay community, who entertained hundreds of visiting sailors, as well as one visiting Noel Coward, and shot several very queer home movies in the 40s and 50s. That could be a tricky hobby, because male homosexuality was criminalized and film negatives had to be developed somewhere. So there was always the risk that someone working on them could report the homoerotic material to the authorities. But Thorp was the son of the founder of the Durban Amateur Photographic Society, so he probably had enough connections that it was easy for him to find a safe and trusted lab. Starting out in the early 1940s, Thorp shot several drag scenes, often together with his longtime friend and one-time lover Selwyn Hurwitz and the burlesque artist Ed Olty. Hurwitz's sister Judy sometimes played the male counterparts, and their brothers Louis and Morris participated as well. A lot of those scenes featured ballet performances in drag, culminating in the homoerotic Faux Pas de Deux. All of these films can be found in the Oral History Project collection at GALA, South Africa's Queer Archive, which was established in 1997. It also preserves Thorp's Nil Desperandum, which roughly translates to Never Despair. In this 6-minute-long silent short, we get introduced to Mipsy, the grand old lady of the screen, and the unnamed younger gay man mentored by Mipsy, who decide to go cruising for seamen together. On their way to the harbor, they meet two sailors who apparently aren't manly enough for them. They rather prefer the two studs they come across at the docks. After a picnic in the countryside, followed by some hanky-panky in the bushes, the studs beat them up and take off in Mipsy's car. Battered and bruised, they walk home and run into a rickshaw, carrying the two sailors they encountered earlier, who offer them a lift, on their laps. It's an amateur home movie made by a couple of friends that manages to tell a fully formed, explicitly gay plot with a happy ending, made in an era when that could land you in prison. So similar to François Reichenbach's Last Spring, I was already surprised that it even existed. But then I found out how old it really was, and I was stunned. For almost 3 decades, Nil Desperandum was assumed to have been filmed in the early 60s. But in 2025, film scholar Ludwig Wagner published his paper Redefining the Historical Timeline of Queer Film in South Africa, Ernest Thorp's Nil Desperandum and South Africa's First Queer Films, in which he conclusively dates the production to sometime between 1949 and May 1951. This not only redefines South African queer film history, it places Nil Desperandum beside Fireworks and Un Chant d'Amour as one of the earliest surviving narrative gay shorts in the world. And content-wise, it even broke new grounds. Fireworks had gay-bashing sailors as well. But Nil Desperandum tells its story without the dream imagery, coding or symbolism that seemed to be the norm during that period. Ernest Thorp belonged to a circle of gay friends who all made movies together. Many of those movies are considered lost today, so who knows? Even earlier examples could still turn up. The history of gay short films is not a tidy timeline, and it's still being written, because a lot of films are still waiting to be discovered. While Ernest Thorp and his friends made their films involving cross-dressing in Durban, a group of friends on Fire Island worked on their drag version of Camille, which just sat in a closet for several decades. There is still so much to learn and to discover about our shared history, and I can't wait to find out what other exciting short films I've missed in my research. I hope some of them will even show some new perspectives. The rickshaw at the end of Nil Desperandum is pulled by a black man, reminding us not only that apartheid was very much a thing in South Africa, but also that the first few decades of known gay short film history centered white men. But that will finally change next time, when we are looking at a short film from 1967 that features our first black protagonist. Until then, thank you all for watching, and thanks to the GALA Queer Archive, and especially its coordinator Linda Chernis for their support and the important work they're doing in general. Check out the links in the video description, and please like, comment and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.